We are live on the Voodoo Monkeys. And today we are going to discuss. You know,
Scuzzy. Conzo.
some scuzzy Conzo. What?
What the fuck?
We're going to
That's a name.
discuss. What
We
the
could
heck
create a
is it?
character now. Scuzzy.
Would you say that word was in Japanese? Yippee-ki-yay?
What?
No.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Tucker! That's from,
No, Chris Webby just made
Die
a
Hard.
song called Yippee-ki-yay.
Oh, yeah. No, what I was talking about is the translation. I recently learned the translation of kamikaze because I started learning Japanese.
My God, with spiritual.
Kamikaze. Yeah, kaze is wind. And then kame is like gods, like of the gods. So, and spiritual kind of connection. I don't know how to explain it the best, but it's like kamikaze, right? So
It's a
spiritual god wind.
monotheism. It's a monotheistic god of the Japanese people. It's pretty much like one god.
Okay. I should check out what they're, because I know they have a unique
They're
belief
saying the
system, and
god
it's not
of the
just
gods.
Buddhism,
Like
Zen
this
Buddhism, right?
is this is
There's
like the
something else
god of
too.
the gods. This is God. You know what I mean? Like this is the ultimate. And so like at that stage, it's like this is the monotheism level. This is like all of everything. So like this is where the universe comes into perspective. So like you have to imagine in your mind what that looks like to some extent, and it takes years to kind of form a picture of it. But you kind of start to see like God of God. It's just like that's like all of all. That's like all of everything. These are terms you've heard within the religions that taught you these things to begin with. So like all of all would imply the universe pretty much. And comma, well, how do you say that right?
I think this comes back into what I texted you that other day. There's three for me, there's at least three scales. There's like, and that's part of the God scale, which is the scale of like infinite potential.
Buddy,
it's everything that we know is and more that could be, right?
There's 7 scales I actually
and then,
have.
So I'm only at 3. Then there's the awareness scale, which is like what is in your mind.
You don't even
then there's
have
the
them
third
all.
one, which is the worldly scale, which is what's in the world.
You don't even have them all. Well, I guess it depends on which way you want to look at that. You could go mind, body, and soul. That's 3 scales. Like, hey, mind, body, and soul is 3 scales. But like, where's my fucking shit here? Okay, so here's the spiritual planes. Okay, so I think these are the first 3 spiritual planes, but there's gonna be more. Okay, so I'll read all these to you, just the list. The great physical plane, the great mental plane, the great spiritual plane. Those are the 3 planes.
So that's world awareness.
Hold on. No, you're seeing what you want to see what it really is. Okay?
I'm seeing my connection.
Because it's more, yeah, but you don't have to see your connection to it. It's beautiful the way it is. You don't have to change it. Okay, so check this out. Plane 1. Now, there's 7 minor and physical planes, and they are as follows. Number 1, the plane of matter, which is A. And then you have number 2, the plane of matter, B. And then you have number 3, the plane of matter, C. Then you have number 4, the plane of ethereal substance. Then you have 5, the plane of energy, A. And then you got 6, the plane of energy, B. And then you have 7, the plane of energy, C. So with every molecule, there's an energy that goes with that molecule. So you have 3 different energies there, 3 different matters there. So each one of those molecules goes with another molecule, and that's the essence of life. But the essence of life is the plane of the ethereal substance. And those things give you the great physical plane. And then, because of a result of those things, you can then think mentally and spiritually on that plane.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this. I mean, as soon as you said matter A, B, C, I'm like, that's space. You know, height, width, breadth, that's shapes. Urethral substance, I immediately thought about like reproductive systems. And then 3, energy A, B, and C. Time, potential,
So let me
feeling. I
read
don't know.
this part to you. Let me
Like,
read
what
this
could those
part
be?
to you. And this is out of a book. I'll show you guys the book after. I think I've shown it on this podcast before. But anyways, now let me read this next part. And I'm not saying this author knows all. I'm saying this is a piece of information that a few authors have had in the past. Like, it's information people have never written books have obtained. This is just information I feel is good for humanity to have. The all. Okay, listen. The all is the earthworm, and yet the earthworm is far from being the all. Okay, so right away they're saying that we think that we're all of everything.
What is the earthworm? Is that
The
what
earth is us. We're the
that's
earthworm.
living
We're like
flesh on
this.
Earth's surface?
Yeah, the all is the earthworm, and yet the earthworm is far from being the all. So right away it's saying like we think we are way bigger than we really are.
We're not. Our minds have that potential, right? But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really the
So
that
check this
portal.
out.
That's not really
No,
just
but
us,
like your
right?
mind is nothing compared to the mind of the universe. Okay, now listen,
Yeah.
there's way more here, way more. So don't get hung up on that. And still wonder what remains. And though the earthworm exists merely as a lowly thing, created and having being solely within the mind of the all. So you were created by the thought of the all, and you think you're something, pretty much. Yet the all is immanent and the earthworm and in particles that go to make up the earthworm. So all the particles that make you up, like that was given to you from this source of this all of creation. And then can there be a greater mystery than this of the all in the all and the all in all? So unless you
I want
understand
to read
all
that.
knowledge, unless you understand all of knowledge, you will never understand all of anything. And that conscious energy of the all is the all, and it thought you up. So you are never going to understand all. And so you stop thinking you are all and understand that all of everything else is all.
Go from inward to outward. That's a good idea.
Don't take what's outside you inward. You were created from within, so from within you shall get your growth. You should not take your growth from outside material things. You know what's interesting to me?
That's an important channel to practice.
Yeah, it is an important channel to practice. I agree. It's interesting to me, though, is we create keyboards, we create stereos, we create TVs, we create all this stuff. Okay. And you go to work, you make your money, you pay for these things, and you have that structure of society, which we are now seeing crumble at the reasons of the earth for whatever they may be. Because what man does will always have a consequence. There will always be a cause and effect, and that will be until the end of time. That's a strict law of the universe. So we create all this thing, we create all that pollution, creating these things. We say we serve the scale of society. It's about building these houses and living in these big mansions and doing all this kind of sort of shit. But the reality of it is the virus hits and none of that matters. The reality of it is just like mass production caused this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and all these problems that we have as humanity. So it's just like this need to have to put things on the earth that already don't exist is already a command that we are disobeying, I guess what you would call God for.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a lot to unpack in that. I mean,
well, no, it's true, because if you can't understand,
that's what we view as progress, right? And it is definitely definable. That's progressing. We're making our lives way easier, way more interconnected and stuff. But
exactly.
We're seeing
this is where we go back. This is where we go back. So, for example, if you want to leave the city, what's something we long for? Everybody longs for this. We call it just like meditation. But we long for peace. We long to be out in nature. We long to be away from all these things that we call civilization. And what's the most interesting thing about this is Western knowledge is mostly inspired by Egypt. what we have done in Canada mostly originates in Egypt. It's this idea of building societies and structures. And that goes back to the first societies in the Middle Eastern times, right? Back in the Roman days, and then you had the Egyptian Empire. So during all these times and the different controls of power during that, that's the source of knowledge. This is the deceit, right? So a guy like me or you comes along, and this guy, I guess biblically, would be depicted as like the serpent, the devil, this deceitful character of will inside themselves, that they don't want to agree with the way people are already doing things. So you got this thing where people are supplying stuff for each other. Things start off kind of all right-ish. Except
I think what's
murder.
unique about
murder
that time
happens.
too is the kind of exponential growth that they had.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
No worries. No worries.
I had to
You
connect that,
you
but-
have to do that. No, but like when you take the murders that like happened in the Bible immediately after, okay, so Cain murders Abel. I don't want to research whether Cain's real or not, and I don't want to research every fundamental of the story, and this is what a theologian that's doing to teach you this in church, people. I don't want to do those things. I want to look at the principle. I want to look at the main core thing here, what's going on. And what I'm looking at is this like, okay, there's life and we've already murdered somebody.
It's weird how the story plays out, right? It's like
Yeah.
as soon as there's one, there's the other.
First
it's
thing.
Such a,
First thing.
but they had grown. I mean, like they were grown brothers, right?
So, well, yeah, they pretty
But
much.
as soon as they knew
Genesis
that
1,
it was
Genesis
possibility.
1 is this like God creates everything, okay? And then Genesis 2
Became certain.
is pretty much like the story Adam and Eve, that all happens, and then Genesis 2 is like Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel are created, which are the kids of Adam and Eve, and they're off in the field one day, and Cain gets jealous of Abel, or Abel gets jealous of Cain and kills him with a rock. And then at this time, they're still like so connected to consciousness, because that stream of consciousness that's created everything, right? They're so close to it that they can still hear it, like it's like right there, it's talking to them. So this would be the stage that we call schizophrenic, when really nowadays, but that stage back then, this would have been the point of creation where the string's only this long. So maybe Cain and Abel are here, but for like an Adam and Eve are right here. They like hear the voice of God. They're the direct descendants. So these are the ones that are hearing the literal voice of God, and that's your consciousness as we've come to describe it, right? So this idea of choosing the wrong. And so what does God do? He says, he doesn't say, oh,
It's
you
like
can't
that
eat the
biological
apple.
portal is the same thing that's existed for us and our ancestors.
Yeah, he's like, it isn't that you can't eat the apple because you'll be like me. He doesn't say that. He just says don't do it. He doesn't say why. He just says you can have all of it. He said have it all, just not that one. One thing, all that. Just don't touch that. Don't take this source of knowledge. And how does the woman eat the apple? She believes the lie. It isn't that she physically eats an apple off a tree. It's she believes the thing that makes her mind turn when that thing that tells her inside, there's a seed of thought that one day it's just like God doesn't want you to eat from that tree because you will become like him. This is the human thought at that moment. That moment she is thinking this. But that is a living spirit that fed her the thought, even though it is nowhere to be fucking seen. So she is fed this thought, and just by believing
because of
it,
the nature of the existence between man and woman in the first place, I think led for that to happen, and that's kind of where the devil lies in the nature. We took this spot of a serpent within the scenery.
Yeah. So that's where these pictures come from, though, right? And so, like, it kind of paints a story in this way, which is interesting. But what's more interesting is I like to imagine just different energies. Like, you got this, like, infinite energy, which is all of everything. And then you have, like, this just source of darkness that just creeps along and grabs light when it can. and it just is moving constantly.
Sounds pretty demonic.
Yeah. So like,
Its
freaking,
head cut off.
so the apple awakening, though, was knowledge. The lady, or Eve, realizes that she can now understand things. And so thus, as the Bible progresses, comes one of the greatest proverbs that was ever written by Solomon, was man shall not lean on their own understanding, but in all their ways acknowledge God, and their paths will be made straight. So the reason we didn't want to lead on our own understanding is because you would go off in the branches. Jesus, again, later in the New Testament, comes up with this idea of saying, okay, look, if you're a tree and you grow a branch and somebody snips that branch and throws it on the ground, like, what good is that branch? It can't grow. It's dead. So if you got dead branches, you got to cut that off, because that dead branch is going to kill the rest of the tree.
Could happen. Some sicknesses spread throughout all of it. But sometimes there's just old branches that just dry out.
Yeah.
Much light.
But what's interesting is it's like we haven't seen, I'm like, in our minds, because we look at this story and we're like, oh, well, that's a fairy tale. We have this beautiful garden, and we have this tree, and we have this apple, and this like little snake in the grass. And I'm like, want to be like, no, we have a woman that simply merely reflected a command in 1/10 of a second. We have man ask for the woman because he's lonely. God, when the man's sleeping, puts him into a deep sleep, creates the woman out of the man's rib, creates the woman. And then we have this sense of she takes the apple. But the thought was, hey, you can have any tree. You guys can do anything. You can multiply and be fruitful in the garden. This is perfect peace at this point, because no thought or seed of thought has entered into the picture of consciousness. Just mere paradise. That's all that exists at this point. And now the seed is put in. Now this thought just trickles into the picture and says, wait, why doesn't God want me to do the tree? And that leads to this other question. He doesn't want me to do it because I'll become like him. Why else?
Well, as soon as that's when there's one path turned into a myriad of choices.
So that living spirit was actually considered to be an angel of God. Here's why it was an angel, is this is another thought of God. This is another thought. He's having this other thought while he's having this current thought, because he's omniscient. So you got like this time and this past, present, future all at once. And it's just like, so this angel, he's like thinking about this angel and that seeded thought, his own seeded thought, this split consciousness. And so he's like, I'm going to cut my branches because I'm God and I already know this. So he seeds this branch out, and then this branch is a living entity. That's a living source of energy that now manifests itself on earth and comes in, and they call Satan the manipulator of air. So this is like inspiration. This is like these kinds of things. And then you have two types of inspiration. You have God inspired, and then you have manipulation. And that is the great switch. That is those two things run together. The great switch is also shown in a 2D image, such as the yin and the yang. You got, or as above, so below. On one side, you had the other. But then there was this ultimate plan ever since that moment in time to separate those two entities. And then that the more powerful entity would eventually overtake the other one. Well, darkness has a life of its own. So that is a living entity that wants to survive. And light is like, you were an accident. You don't need to be here.
I kind of took a weird cosmic trip to where like this like we were talking about angels and God and all of time kind of existing at the same time. And then I thought of, this is kind of fucked up. I almost saw like the devil fighting and fucking coming through all of that and starting this great switch where heaven becomes hell, and then new world is created, and that's like an alien planet. It was fucking trippy, man. I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, okay. So like that's
That's
close.
what it was.
That is sort of close. I got those images too. I've had a little more time with it. So that is sort of close. So what you have here is the rebellion. The rebellion is in the mind. Okay, so you have like God is all of everything, right? So like if you imagine just one face as God, one human face in my brain, and inside nothing exists, and now I've had this bad thought and I've had a good thought. I've created all of mankind in my conscious in this image, and now I've had this other thought where this thing like comes in then and deceives them, and then that thing starts to live on its own, and it's just like, what was that? How did that happen? Well, this is the consequence of creating life. Okay, and so like with the consequence of creating something else, you have to understand that that creation needs to be nursed a certain way, and when something has a life of its own, it always has a choice of its own. So this is where we get this idea of like we have a choice, we have a path. And so like in a way I kind of see it like God puts this like line of truth in every man that they can't argue with, no matter how they see that line. The man says, I won't do that because I'm not crossing that, not doing that, you know, and that's that line. But over time, we have this in and out relationship with that line inside ourselves. But that is a living spirit of consciousness, the same way that angel was a fallen angel. The fallen angel means it was a dark thought. It was a fallen thought. That was a living entity flying. It was the grace and that glory that was flying around that scallop, and then it just turns bad.
You know, yeah, it's kind of interesting. So there's like all the grace and glory, and then it turns bad. But seeing that, just being able to see that, allowing to see that, isn't that a God allowing that to happen? So wouldn't that sway things to be on the side of, well, I don't know what word to use, but God.
I'm just having a moment where I'm realizing all the knowledge that I've put together is pretty.
I'm starting to understand things about these beliefs that I never even opened my mind to, or I guess we're exposed to.
Yeah, well, that's interesting is we're talking about the fundamental elements this time. We're not talking about just the beliefs.
There was a time I didn't believe in them.
I'm like not trying to be like, oh, Taylor, like, what do you mean? Like, you have this fallen angel, this thing, and how do you not understand that to life? But this time we're like going inside, and I'm explaining each of the descriptions of these metaphors and what they really mean and how I see this. Okay, so like the Big Bang is actually this rebellion. This rebellion of this thought. So he's like, I'm going to create this life. And I'm going to create all these things. And these two cells now, all of a sudden, one goes bad, one goes good. And so this is what we call matter. Okay, but we call these things matter. I'm going to suggest that matter is potentially the brain cells of God. So here we go. They collide. Boom. And God is faced with evil inside himself with the same. He's faced with this idea of, I've just created this paradise.
I think ideas are almost the brain cells of God.
Yeah, straight up. So, but no, here's...
If it's matter, then that helps it to, like, energy creates matter, right? Well,
I think this is why...
When you blow apart matter, there's a shit ton of energy in there, so it's got to be just a bunch of energy.
I think this is why as above, so below has come so much of a cultistic teaching, because of the separation between man and God. We want to think that as above here, so below here, typical Satanist teaching, deceit in the teaching. Really, that's sorcery. You can't pull from the source of life. You can't pull from the branch of life and continue to live as a dead branch. That does not work. So this is where we have this story of Jesus now. Now the story's having another thought. Now the thought says, okay, man keeps dying. Every time they die, their souls are gone forever. I can't save them. I can't stop this. So how do I stop this? Okay, well, now God's got to go inside himself. He's like, well, I pretty much have to conquer death so that my creation continue to live. I have to conquer death. So in real humanity, this comes out in, I will die for my kids.
I wouldn't call it death. I would call it immortality.
No.
God had to conquer immortality.
No,
and he
he
created
had
the
to
universe.
conquer death. He had to conquer death to have immortality. You can't have you can't have immortality without dying. You don't just live and continue to live. In order to understand the word immortality, you would have to understand death beforehand.
Well,
death
I understand because I'm human,
but death has to come into.
We're talking about before humans existed, I think.
Yeah. Okay, but death has to come into existence before anybody can even know immortality is an option.
Yeah.
So death has to exist. So first you got the thought of everything, the paradise. Okay? Then you have that other seed that collides. Now you have death. Because death is the spirit of what was able to deceive Eve to begin with. It is that deceit. It is that devil. That's why we call the devil is like death. That's why we say this is the dead. This is why we say you don't talk to these spirits. Like, this is where all these fundamental spiritual things have come from, is that seed. Is just like that one thing collided creates this, and now that seed is a living consciousness all by itself. And because it's a living consciousness and because of how it was created, it does not care how it does things. So that's thus the side of the universe that doesn't give a crap. This is where people say, well, I don't think the universe really cares. Okay? And then you get this other side of the coin, and somebody says, no, but if you just put out what you want from the universe, you're going to get that back, okay? And then you get this even third side of the coin that's like within the man. Why does the man want what he wants? Is he trying to build for God or against God? Is he appreciated of his life or is he appreciated of society? Does he serve God? Does he serve money? You start to see these teachings start to unravel throughout, and rather than them coming off as religious pieces of work, they need to come off as like, okay, what have we discussed here? We have science, we have physics, we have fucking matter, we have particles, we have God, we have consciousness, we have the devil, we have knowledge, we have the tree of Eden. And here's evolution. The most interesting part to me when you look at that whole glimpse in the story, what tied it together for me anyways personally was this. I was one day reading and I'm looking at these facts of Egypt because I was fascinated. I'm like, pretty much all of knowledge comes from Egypt. Western society has been spawned from this place, and you go to this documentary after documentary and you're learning, and then you find out that the Great Pyramid's the biggest pyramid, the one that the Egyptians held most sacred. And the most interesting part is that's the image of knowledge. You got the image of the pyramid in the eye. It's on the American dollar bill. It's on everything. And you have this image starting at this point in the dead center of the earth.
There's so many mathematical connections that line up there too. Like, it's so precise. It's like mind-blowing. And the way that it lines up with the magnetic fields, it lines up with the stars. It's kind of awesome. It is awesome. That's why it's a great wonder of the world. Nobody understands how it was made. This
is where the term awesome God came from.
It's a worldly thing.
Do you see what I'm saying? So, but somehow religion has taken this image, photocopied it into a guy with a beard and a robe, and threw some kids' stories on it, and the whole story has become this distorted piece of work. So the story itself, as the truth, has a sheet of deceit over it. Like,
because it was edited to match what worked with people, not to the grand
what
idea.
Was working, because we didn't understand consciousness at that stage in the game.
But that's what was supposed to. I think that made sense for it though. It's like, well, maybe they have because that everybody contributes to God. You know, everything contributes to it. It's all
like, okay, so let's look at science. Let's look at science. People are like, okay, Noah and Ark getting 2 of every animal on everything. Okay, I look at that story and this is what I really hear. Okay, there was probably a flood. We found evidence of this ark. Noah's got this intuition. He needs to build this big boat because he thinks this flood is coming. And then this idea of 2 of everything, no. What I think happens here is I think he does 2 of everything in his world. He doesn't know everything that exists in the world. They don't know about Canada. They don't know about the United States. They don't know about Alaska. They don't know about Switzerland. The only thing they know about is where they currently are. And so he's like, oh, I'm going to save this animal and maybe this animal, and I'm going to have these few pets in my family, and we're on this barge. And God told me to do this kind of thing. And that translates into an actual story, and all these things happen. But I don't think, and then, oh, God's like, now the animals are going to come off and multiply. No, God's God. This is energy. This is the thing that collided to create all of everything. It could just create more animals. Like, that's not how the story is going to actually work out. So we have to look at it. It's just like, what's happening in the mind? What is taking place in the psychology? Because all spiritual growth is done inside the mind. All human growth is done inside the mind. Nothing is done outside the body.
Yeah, but it like, just with us right now having this conversation, I mean, it comes from somewhere, right? I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it. There's some perception that creates the possibility for those connections to form in the first place. So
that's the streamline. There's the line. That's what I mean. There's this line that just exists. That's an unarguable line. It's just like pretty much saying like, no, I created you. You want to try again? Like, it's this thing that's like, yeah, you fucked up. Are you surprised? It's this thing that's just like, yet again, you think you're so smart. It's this thing that, and those are things that we call growing. Those are things, and what's interesting about that, we've turned growth into all of ego about us and not about acknowledging the fact that we live. We've turned growth into, look at what I've grown. Look at what I've done. Look at what I built. Like, I built this house, and I built this family, and I built this thing, and I built. You're being your own God. It doesn't matter what you believe. The truth is, you're creating your own life. And the God said you can't be a dead branch and continue to take from the source. And this is sorcery. This is why it's called sorcery. You are taking power from the source of life and drawing it into your own life to project it forward. You're saying, okay, the God story doesn't work for me anymore. So now I'm going to just reach in there and start grabbing power the way I want to grab it. And it's done by understanding. I'm going to understand this the way I want to understand it. How? In what way? That is the way people are. Every man, name a man that isn't like that.
That's like what makes living right now awesome, is that you can do that. You can go online. You can be self-propelled. So that's actually a big thing.
Do you think it? Okay, that's a good thing for people. But did it get rid of murder? Is it better? Is it really truly better? Because in the beginning, none of that existed.
Well, the best.
Nobody needs to take. And stuff. So check this out. People take because of survival. That we saw it happen when this virus was released. People stocked up on toilet paper. Every last one of those people knows that there's other people in the world. Every last one of those people were told, just take one. So it got to a point they had to put police officers in front of the rows of toilet paper because people would just take it anyways. They would just take it. They would just take it because they had to save their ass. A guy, a Sikh, he told me that. He said, isn't it funny? He's like, it really shows you. He's just like that they had to protect their own ass.
Yeah.
and oh man, I laughed so hard about that because this is a Sikh man. This is a guy from India, somebody I don't see every day. And we're having this talk about this virus. And he tells me this. And I'm like, that's funny. That is so true, but it's funny. Like, it's just everybody's got to protect their own ass. And I'm like, I've been saying this forever. And here's the lie. Here's the deceit we believe. Oh, people aren't that bad. We're getting better. We're getting better. That alone should tell you what you're fucking up. The fact that, okay, we're getting better, but then we have this image that we're like, no, but I don't lie. I don't do that. I'll ask any man, you watch, I'll fucking start going around to people in my house. I'll be like, well, maybe one or two of them would be like, yeah, I lie. I've lied. But like, if I went down the block, 8 out of 10 would say no. And I guarantee you every last one of them has.
Cool. Good
So
reputation,
so
I guess.
so this is what we call good humanity. This is what we call proper behave. This is what we call evolving as a society. And here's the best part. If we're so smart, why do we create viruses that end up killing us?
There's been things that kill us forever, man. There's got to be something.
Yeah, not viruses. The Ice Age, maybe. Or fucking, do you know why a virus happened? It's because, okay, well, let's go biblically, right? It's interesting. A bat
Like, why
transfers
do
a
so many
disease.
people believe in a system that's
No,
so unsustainable?
no, but check this out. A bat transfers a disease to a pig. Okay. And this pig gets this disease, and then Chinese people eat this pig. This is like that movie Contagion. This is more like how it went. Stupid people were like, a man ate a bat. That isn't how it really fucking happened, you morons. A bat literally flew into a pig barn in China, dropped something on the fucking ground, and a pig eats it, and the cells in that bat were contaminated with a bacteria, which goes into that pig. Anyways, this bacteria comes out of nowhere. This is life. It's trying to kill us. Oh, we're surviving. This is what we've done forever, okay? But that life gave you life. Why would it want to kill you? First off. That's the source that allowed you to be here for thousands of years to begin with. And now it all of a sudden just wants to kill you. So first of all, I'm alarmed about that thought. And second of all, this is how I see it, is we create this disease. Like in one of the biblical commands, and we cover it up by saying Leviticus people. In theology, they're like, oh, that was to the Leviticus people. That doesn't apply now. He says, don't eat pork. It's bad for you. Even the doctors, like 5 years ago, were like, okay, we've discovered pork is like not good. Don't eat it. This is why it's bad. Everybody's still eating bacon. Everybody's still eating ham. Grocery stores still making a killing. And there's been like, okay, so you have this biblical rule, don't eat pork. Now you have a scientific rule that's like suggesting don't eat it. We shouldn't be eating this animal, period. Now you have a bacteria that's come from this animal and is killing everybody. And God's commandment was, he said, I told you, don't eat pork. Right? He also says, he talks about the technology thing. He says, man's going to control the world from the palm of his hand. And there will come a time where man will succeed his ability to create, and those creations will start to control them, pretty much. Like, it's happened. That did happen. So you want to go back to the Stone Age, and you have this like predicting. Now we have all these like element stories that are happening in real life. But what's really taking place is this consciousness supercomputer. So this is what I call Google before it exists. Okay? So Google isn't an actual physical supercomputer yet. That's our way of keeping track of spiritual growth. Right? Google is actually this idea of humanity is uploading their thoughts all into one source of knowledge. This is what we call the tree of knowledge of good and evil, folks. This is where you got
like every spiritual growth could be like art, as you post with the subsequent works of art that could show your spiritual growth, and then when that's online, like we can do that online. That's really cool. You're kind of waking up a little description of how cool the internet is. I want to write something called a modern view on how the internet makes today a modern renaissance or something like that. I'm probably going to need some help peer review. Start a Google Docs.
But anyways, all of knowledge, right? All of knowledge, we've given this name, okay, to God. Okay, we've said you were all of everything. You created us from the beginning. And now we've had this turning point where we're like, it's the age of knowing. We've ate enough of the apple. We have all this information. And look, we figured out how to store it. So we've taken from this exterior idea and now created something physically that does the same thing as this does.
Yeah, I mean, it's the age of information, so that's like the age of knowing, right? But at the same time, it's kind of the age of uncertainty because there's so much.
At this point, it's like okay,
misinformation.
No, at this point, it's like humanity is awesome. It's just like they're like, look at what we created, and at this point, God's saying, really, So check this out. Asteroid, boom, heading for Earth. Check this out. Fires, boom, Australia. Check this out. Tsunami, fuck you. Check this out. Earthquake, fuck you. Oh, well, that's not good enough. Coronavirus, bitch.
And then the poles are all gonna melt in the summer, and there's gonna be
and you get global warming. And check this out. And this is what's interesting.
This whole
and here, look at this part. Look at this part of the story. This is what's interesting. Because you have this group of people that's pushed this Renaissance idea, pushed this technology growth. We call this the age of Illuminatium, and we're growing into this technology, which is the complete opposite of God. And now it's saying, how do we solve these universal problems? We're going to go and now we're going to shoot missiles into this asteroid and direct it away from Earth. We're going to physically fight God off. And God's sitting there thinking, really?
I think it's. I don't know if we can fight God off. What we can do, we gotta wait it out. We gotta protect ourselves.
Well, here,
you know,
check
there's
this
like
out.
the eye of God, like the eye of Sauron. It's like, don't put the ring on. Don't go outside.
I have a solution. You mark my words. You mark my words. You mark my words. It won't happen because that's not how it was planned.
Like the future.
Hey,
it's like underground.
Don't give me what ifs. I'm giving you for sures.
All right.
Check this out. This is what would happen, but it's not going to happen because of humanity's ego, because we've grown the seed to grow our own lives the same way that demonic force did in the beginning. And we've seeded ourselves and we're like, this is living. That waking up feeling that we called, we're alive now. You weren't supposed to have that. You were already alive once. Okay, so let me tell you something about your fucking little third eye that we're all tapping into, because I don't give a fuck what you think. Okay, let me tell you something about that. You weren't supposed to live that again. You lived. You were created from it. You were not supposed to be doing that. And so when I did this, okay, so check this out. This was interesting. You go back to Adam and Eve and they're like, we're naked, and they understand all these things. Rather than looking at just the principle of they're naked, I remember the day that I was lying, tripping out, and I'm like, boom, and now I'm awake, and I'm like, I have awoken. I know now. I understand. And we call this adulthood, and I get it. And it makes sense to me. And then all of a sudden, the first thought after I had this flood of joy, and I'm like, knowledge is so cool, living is so cool. Right? After all this, all as I hear is this voice that says, why do you know that? And I'm like, fuck.
But that's another you. That's another you just saying.
No, but I don't know the story.
You crossed the line.
No, but I don't have to know the story. I didn't give a shit about this. I'm like rocking out Satanism because I don't give a fuck. Okay? So at this stage in the game, I don't really care. I'm not just having this because I want to have this spiritual fucking thing. This is like, there's this conscious voice speaking to my mind saying, why did you eat that? Why would I question myself like that? I did it. I chose to do it. I'm not going to question it after I did it. Humans' approach is to question it before you try it. Oh, I'm kind of scared. I'm not sure if I should fucking do that or not. No, I did it and then was like, I shouldn't have done that. Why shouldn't I have done that? Why was the thought like, why do I know this? My thought to myself was, why do I know this? I shouldn't know this. This is knowledge that literally is true and I can't explain. I cannot explain it. It's just like, I gotta take that power. I want to give it to everybody right now. I just want to show them. And I realize this is the passing of the apple. This is how it works. It's just like, you're awoken, and now this person's awoken, and this person's awoken, and this person's awoken. This is the passing of the apple through time. And so, like, this is what I've realized. Get high. There's no need to justify. You know, just fucking do it. No, you know what I've come to realize about all that, though, was like, there was a reason I felt that way, because at that moment in time, I was like, I'm alive. Well, I wasn't alive for the other 26 years. At that moment, I was claiming apparently I wasn't. At that moment, I was claiming
it's something undeniable, something very real, you know, and powerful too. So it's definitely feeling like this is alive. You know, a lot of the drugs that have been taken by people sometimes, like or well, I guess like DMT is one of the main ones, and like dopamine or anything like that,
So
serotonin stuff that
we're
really
dipping
feel
into
good euphoria stuff. You're only supposed to feel that at certain times in
so
life.
at this stage, because you have a
It
choice
just
of
shows that
consciousness.
life has become unnatural.
Yeah. So at this stage, you have a choice of consciousness. So when you eat the mushroom, unless you're looking for God, you're going to see God, or you could see the devil. You could see either or now at this stage. So this is interesting because now we're taking these chemicals and these substances and DMT and all these creations, and we're taking it, we're ingesting it. We're allowing those powers to move through us, what we call drugs, which is literally an energy that is flowing through us and giving us mind-altering things. There's a reason it's called magic mushroom, and there's a reason God said this is sorcery. You're not supposed to be taking from this to build
Definitely
your own
something.
life.
Yeah, it's not something for everybody all at the same time, probably. Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, like in the right environment, like somewhere like Tomorrowland, like what kind of spiritual reawakening would that have to go to like a giant, really feel good party, just the best vibes ever, and then you just, you take some drugs, maybe some mushrooms, and you just reawaken in this really great human dance. It's beautiful.
We have this idea of pleasure. Okay. So, and we think God creates this idea of pleasure. But like in the beginning, like man was with the woman alone. So the pleasurable of sex. Sex was created by God. Okay. But from that, everything was distorted. Because the woman deceives the man because they're sleeping together. So now this power of sex, this is where we get the don't, unless you're married to the person, don't sleep with them. This is where it comes from. It isn't that God was trying to be a hard ass. It was more like God's trying to be like, okay, that's a powerful magic. It creates life.
Yeah.
When you're feeding your ego, when you're feeding your ego and you're like, this chick is so
propels
hot.
you into the unknown.
Well, listen to this. This is the human thought of sex. They're like, this chick is so hot, and man, I'm banging the shit out of this chick, and this chick's my girlfriend, and I go to work and I come home, and this is the motivation. I went to work, I paid the bills, she's still here. It's good. It's good. This is a relationship. And all I got to do is like go to work and come home, bang, and I feel energized, and I'm going to go back to work. And then your guys at work, your friends are like, oh yeah, you've been getting some lately. You're in a good mood and you're doing well. And isn't that interesting? This exchange of power, you're going to come. No, that's not old school. That's relationships.
Female. And how is that on the other side? What is it to that woman?
Here's the growing up. No, I don't care. Here's the growing up part. It's about sex and creating other life. Here's the growing up part. You get with a female to create another human being. And you get with a female to feed each other. But it's turned into a business relationship. If you ask 90% of people today, if they believe in love, they will say no. They believe in arrangement. They believe in fucking the ability to pay a mortgage together. And they allow their spouses to go sleep with other people. That's a big portion of the fucking population. Okay?
Yeah. They still believe in love, but it's at the beginning. And then there's I think a large part that give up on it for a long time. Maybe don't see it until way later.
Regardless, the point is you are taking from that source. It's just like you two are intertwined. You become linked as one. That person's feeding you energy, saying I care about you. You're feeding energy back to them, saying I care about them. This is what makes it sorcery. Check us out. The moment it's done, females have evolved enough that they can say, okay, see you later. Okay, maybe I'll sleep with you next week, maybe in a month from now. And in that time period, they slept with 8 or 9 other people. And that is honestly the majority of females. Okay? Even ones in relationships, they might be sleeping with 8 or 9 other people and you don't know about it. You should see the statistics on how many people are secretively cheating on their spouses. Nobody looks this shit up, but go look. People have done polls on it, and people answer honestly. Their spouse isn't going to find out. If you ever cheated on your spouse, we're taking a poll. Don't worry, they'll never find out. Oh, yeah. Okay. So then they take this poll and they find all this out. So,
I don't know. Never looked into it.
well, you should. You should. And check this out. The divorce rate is more than 70%. More than 70% of people that get married in the last 50 years get divorced. So check this out. You got people in lifetimes. This is not abnormal. I've had probably 17 partners in my life. I don't know how many people you have, but let's just go back 2 people ago. How many partners did your mom have? How many partners did your grandparents have? Look how fast that seed evolved. And we call it progress. We say, oh, that was the old days. This is the new days. Excuse me. I want to know something. I want to know why modern times means we can still rip the heart out of somebody's chest and it's okay and they just need to get over it. Oh, that's okay. Oh, but it's love. This is love. This is life. This is being an adult. This is serving society. This is convenience. This is sin. This is demonic. This is fucking disgusting as fuck. It disturbs me in my soul. It makes me want to kill. I want to chop people's heads off for it. When I see a female that is okay with sleeping with 3 different guys at once, I want to take a knife and slit her throat, and I don't care how hot she is. That's how strongly I was born with that seed in me. And it wasn't what I saw, because my dad had one wife before, and my mom, I don't have my real dad, and so it's not like I saw a perfect fundamental marriage. It's just like I believe in that, and I don't have a relationship, and I'm at a point where I don't want one, not because I don't believe in marriage, do believe in marriage. It's because I don't believe there is a soul today that cares about that word, that understands that word. Even if you were to go into the church and find somebody that cares about it there, they idolize the idea of marriage. They don't care about marriage. They don't care about the exchange of power. They don't care about what my demons in my closet that I fight. They don't care about the back and forth. They don't care about the saint and the God. All as they care about, oh, I go to church on Sundays. Or the other person's like, no, I don't believe in religion. And it is the fucking stupidest shit. Like, I just want to grab everybody by the... This is why I want to kill. Straight up. This
with
is the
ceremony
one
and devotion to the way that it works, and to with the 2 that are involved, right?
And people think
I think it works different for different people.
Yeah.
It's not always the same.
Well,
and some people have big grand weddings, some people have little tiny weddings.
Yeah, I don't care how you fucking get married. I don't care what way you fucking get married. All as I'm saying is the reason you're supposed to have one partner is because when you link sources of power where that ego is feeding your ego to go so you can supply them. That's what's happening there. That's what love really is. That's why you have to take that woman for how she is because she's giving you ego, not for you to say, look, I'm a man and I did this and I slept with you. She's giving you ego so you can say, look, I now have the energy to go put food on the table for my kids. She's giving you the energy to say, I have the energy to go make money so I can have sex with my wife and have a kid. And then I'm going to teach my kid these teachings because it's important to keep the blessing going, which is where you get the passing on of the blessing in the Old Testament. One person passes knowledge. You get Solomon passing knowledge to his son David. They tried to kill each other. This is his son. And Solomon's like, yeah, you're going to be a king? Because you got to remember, back in that day, your son grew up to rebel against you, to take the throne. And you have Solomon saying, I'm going to kill you. And you have his son that comes into his camp while they're all sleeping, sneaks in there, and puts a knife blade to his throat. These are real stories. These things did happen. I don't care what biblical twist you want to put on it. Fucking David puts a fucking knife or a sword to Solomon's throat. And Solomon wakes up and he says, I could kill you, but I'm not going to. And he goes. So this is where we're seeing the behavior of God. This is where we're seeing these good behaviors. We're seeing forgiveness. We're seeing grace. We're seeing mercy. We're seeing a resistance to want to kill, which, remember, we go back to the beginning. That was the first fucking sin after people got knowledge. People gained knowledge, then they killed.
Yeah, like Cain and Abel. Once he saw that his scythe or whatever he was carrying could be used to deal with Abel in the way that it was. I don't know this.
People say they don't want to kill. Okay? Everybody. You ask them, hey, would you kill somebody? Most of them would probably say no. Most of them. Okay? So then check this out. Some business guy. Not the killing type. 5'2", fucking scrawny little shit. Dating a midget. Just rich as fuck. Okay? I'm just making up a scenario. Okay? He's got this secret. His whole business is built off a lie. Maybe he murdered his ex-wife. Maybe he fucked over his stepbrother. Maybe he stole $500,000. He has his business. He's built it all off a lie. Nobody knows. Okay? I find out about it, and I go, and I'm like, no, this is wrong. Why do I think that's wrong? Why do I feel like the need that this is a public thing now? I need to bring that. Well, see, there's that line. We'll go there. We'll say there's this line of right and wrong, but we'll say, nope, God doesn't exist in that line. But society will even accept that line. They'll say, no, he shouldn't have done that. Okay, so fucking that's interesting because good always evil always bows to good still. And so you have this happening, and this guy comes into my house and kills me in my sleep because I know this piece of information. Now, he wasn't a killer till his entire life was at jeopardy. So he was a killer. It wasn't like he became a killer in that moment. He was a killer from the fucking beginning.
This reminds me so hard of the Killdozer story. The name of the man, I gotta check this out. Marvin Haymeyer.
What's the story about?
There's actually a movie being made.
Oh, is this about the guy who gets life in prison or whatever? Is it that guy?
No. He owned a auto shop, I think, and a muffle repair shop, and basically the city had plans to build this factory, this cement factory, right next to his shop, basically, or like across the street from it or something. But it would basically, they would have to rebuild the road, and would cut off the only access road to his shop. So he petitions and writes letters and all this stuff to try to get them to stop. He goes to every length that is available. They ignore him. He even says, I'll pay for you to build the road. No, we can't do it. We need to get the equipment for it. We don't have the equipment. He's like, I will get the equipment. I will do the work. You don't even have to pay me. I'll do it. I just need to do this because it's my only income, right? And they said, no, we have to build this factory. They build it anyway. And then he's like, hey, well, I don't know what to do now. And then he takes his bulldozer. He figures out an idea. He's out of options. He has nothing else to do. And he kind of like rigs out his bulldozer. I'll show you. I'll do a screen share here. And covers it with cement and really thick armor plating. And then just goes on a rampage, and he just bulldozes the cement factory, goes through the cement factory, and then he goes into town, and he starts, this is what it looked like. He starts just bulldozing. No, he doesn't kill anybody. Nobody was harmed at all. Except at the end, he took his own life because he went for so long, and he had nothing else. That was the end. You know, he started to run out of gas. He had nothing else to do. But they tried to take it out. They couldn't do anything. They tried small arms fire. They did little explosives. They had called SWAT in. They couldn't do anything. They had another bulldozer. Killdozer took out the bulldozer.
They create branches.
And he was taking out like City Hall. He took out like.
So this guy does this,
by corrupt government and backstabbing local populace.
Check this out. This guy does this. And I'm going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say he had a damn good reason to do it. I'm going to say that, like, let's say he believed in something so strongly that he felt this is his only action. And he was willing to die for it, okay? So, check this out.
Life. They basically took his life away by cutting off his business.
He thought it was so right that he was willing to die for us, or he thought he was already dead. It doesn't matter. My point being is we create branches like psychology to say, hey, I don't want to see my face on 3 screens here.
There you go.
Yeah. So
okay.
we create branch of psychology to say, well, that guy's crazy. Have you ever looked at the fundamentals of psychology? I'm not going to say that it's not true. I'm going to say it's half true. Because I love it. They just draw from one source. One source. What they call logical.
I mean, that's not a sane state of mind, right?
Yeah.
He's on a suicide mission. Obviously, it's not a sane state of mind.
Okay, no, but that's what we say. Exactly, that's what we say. No, but dude, I'm in a sane state of mind. I pay my fucking bills. I have a citizen. I have a phone. I have a SIM card. I do all these things. Actually, I'm perfectly fucking sane. Okay? But I'll tell you what, I would fucking do that.
Yeah, I think that's what Captain said. If he would have not done that, he would have lived and then gone insane. But he stayed sane and made a difference.
Okay, so this is where I want to show you the great switch. What we call normal in life, what we call society, what we call truly true, is actually a piece of shit.
Does not determine everything. Can't. If it did, the world would be pretty fucking... It would be... You know, in Back to the Future, it would be fucking... Not... It wouldn't be... What's his name? The other guy, the Griff. It would be Griff's world, the casino world, you know?
What do you mean what doesn't determine everything? It does determine everything. That is the world that determines everything. You're seeing it live in action right now. I'm surprised the amount of like things that you'll still go sometimes, or you'll be like, maybe, because it's right in front of you. You are seeing it take place.
I'm agreeing with the idea there, but I'm saying like,
but
the more that happens, the more we go to that kind of world, you know, where we can make different choices and not build that.
Check this out. No, it doesn't happen. There will always be somebody that will always kill somebody else. Because to create that world, you got to kill to begin with. And we say, how do we do it? There has to be war. Life has always been like that. We come up with every excuse to not do it. But here's the reality of it is. The reality of it is as long as sin exists in the human mind, which it isn't going anywhere because it's in the human conscious from the point of beginning of time, right? As long as that exists, there's always going to be a thought that says, well, I could kill the person, but I'm not going to. And then one day it's going to be, no, I'm going to kill him. Fuck that. They don't agree with it. So check this out. Everybody agrees, except my mom's not going to agree. And my dad's not going to agree. And I know a lot of church people that won't agree. Maybe they did figure out enough of it to know it's right. You know what I mean? So, like, they're not going to agree. And I love it. They call it a perfect world. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to be spiritual tolerant. We're going to have zero tolerance. And they've been promoting this for 3 years with a music festival. They have all the symbols on the festival, that one's for no violence and one's like zero tolerance and no more poverty and no more hunger, and this is called the New World Order agenda, right? So they literally have images on the backdrop of a stage that they do this festival every year for 4 years that show a picture for each one of the agenda orders. Okay, but why would we need that? Because God's like, okay, sin existed and I'm just gonna blow up earth, save you all, and we can start this over with no hunger and no eating and no temptations and none of that. And you can just know what it is to purely exist instead. But until we get there, this is what has to take place. And everybody's like, no, I'm just going to go with this other guy. Because I can't see past my death. Because I can't get past the fact that I'm alive right now and I'm going to die. They don't want to get over that feeling of this is my only life. They can't see past it. They can't. They physically can't. They have not opened their minds to it. And that's what's interesting is you try to describe something that's simple to a child. It's simple to an adult, okay? They don't get it because they physically cannot open their minds to that idea yet, right? They might even say something that in your mind you can translate that to mean something deep. But they physically can't open their mind to that yet, okay? But yet, as adults, we say, oh, but the simple way is the right way. Really? Really, is it? Is it really that simple? Because what's simple? And when you tell me it's simple, when you tell me it's simple, and then you explain it to me, if it's the first time I've heard it, it doesn't matter how simple it is. I don't understand it. So it's going to seem non-simple to me. So if I live by that rule and I say, hey, well, if it's not simple, I'm not going with it. If I decide to live by that rule, well, now what happens? Now I'm rejecting information. So now I've created this idea, this room for opinion to be born. Rather than taking in more information, I'm saying, no, I don't want that piece of information. I'm choosing this piece of information and I have a right to because it's my life. No, you fucking don't. And no, it's not your fucking life. And no, fucking no. And I don't care what way, what psychology, what truth, what religion, what belief you want to fucking argue that with. You're lucky to fucking be here. And even an atheist knows that.
Yeah. I think that's the most epic thing ever, is just to live. To be a part of life.
Just to be here. So at what point was that not enough? We were just here, but there was the thought that said, no, but God doesn't want me to be like him. Let's just see. We weren't okay with, we have all of it. God's like saying, just ask and I'll tell you the fucking knowledge. But no, we had to go, no, and what does God say after we take from the apple? Or when we dip into that knowledge, he says, now the man has become like us.
Creator's perspective was achieved. All of a sudden, they were capable of art. Oh no, what are humans going to come up with next?
Yeah, they were capable of art. And isn't it interesting what we call art? Like I said, my connection, language arts, the magic arts, the arts. The magic arts are the language arts. The magic arts are the musical arts. The magic arts are the poetic arts. The magic arts are, fuck you, Taylor, you're a piece of shit. That cuts your soul. You feel that.
Communication arts.
Communication. Thus, then we see the story of them building a tower. They build this tower, right? They tried to do what Egypt did in the beginning in Babylon. They start building this great tower to the heavens. They wanted to build this great source of power, this great tower, this idea of they could be closer to it. They could obtain wisdom from this idea. This is called an idol, and they build it, and God scatters them and hurts their language so that they cannot communicate with each other. You're Egyptian, you're Greek, you're... Now we have division.
Yeah.
All just because the man wants to be like God. See, now look at how it's not enough. In the beginning, the God says they've eaten from the tree of knowledge. They are like us now. And so, what are we going to do? And then check this out.
It can't be in one person.
The man,
it has to be in all people.
No, it's in all people. And then check it out. Man still wants more. They still want more. And that wasn't good enough. First, they have everything. Now they've eaten from the tree of knowledge, and they're still all in existence. I want to point that out. God's allowing you to live in that sin.
What if the New World Order is like a socialist anarchy?
A socialist anarchy? In what way?
So it's like, I don't know how to explain.
What is socialism? Socialism describes both sides. This is something we're adamant about. Although we want to describe both sides, we don't want to coexist. See, this is the part where the plan does not fit with what the plan on earth is. Okay? Remember, God said he's going to cut the branch. He's cutting the dead branches. We're separating. I created life. I don't want this in here. This isn't how this is going to go. And the devil's like, no, God has to coexist with both of us. That's what it is. He's like, it's okay. Sin. Do it. God's going to forgive you. He has to. And now you see this work being accomplished by that. So we get the pyramids. We get the fucking all these great architecture. What would we call that age? The Great Age, or you know what I'm talking about? Like Alexander the Great, and what was that age called?
Golden Age?
The Golden Age. Yeah, something like that. So you call that the Golden
Bronze Age?
They call it the Golden Age or something like that. Why was that called the Golden Ages? Was because, for one, things were probably pretty shiny. They said back then the pyramids, like, these things would have been shiny quarry stones. You would have looked up, you would have saw these things coming for miles. Like, they had a nice shine on them, because these stones were freshly cut. They weren't weathered at this point.
I have this really great game that goes through the ages of our growth.
Doodle God?
No, it's called Cells to Singularity. It's like an idle game, and you kind of connect different branches of evolution to go from a cell to a human, and then you start generating ideas, and then you start progressing through the ages of humanity.
That's what's interesting about human species, is humans want to start at that point. They want to start at the beginning of man and watch how man grows.
This is the very beginning. You start off with primordial earth and the soup.
Okay.
You go and you go.
All right, now look at that.
Find the
That's
Bronze
a network.
Age.
Okay.
Medicine was invented in the Bronze Age. Writing.
Yo.
Metallurgy kind of led to it.
Taylor, that's a network.
Better farming.
That's a network. On your phone, you see the network?
Totally.
You can see the network. Okay? So that's a network.
And
you can see the network. How is that any different than when you look at a global map when you start an online NHL game? The map pops up and you see the little beacons. You see the little beacons.
Stocks. This is a little different.
Stats. Okay. So that's it. Yeah, but what's it look like? It looks like a bunch of branches. It's like this thing branches off into this. It's a mind map. It's a mind tree. It's a tree. Yeah. Look at it. Totally. It's got branches. One picture leads to 3 other pictures. Okay. This is the tree of knowledge. This is the image you should have in your head. Look, technology was made based off of it.
Yeah.
What do you think an app is? What do you think categories are?
No, it's that tree. That's why there was a time period I was brainstorming for invention purposes. I was wanting to come up with something to build a prototype for. I never got around to just building anything, but I mean that really, like, that engine of creation. Wait, fuck, I was talking about. Now I'm looking at my phone trying to connect it to the Cells game. I gotta backtrack. Oh yeah, how we're always building off of each other's ideas. So we use, so there's math, people doing math. You got Archimedes, Pythagoras, and then Newton comes along and he sees all this stuff and what's been since then, the French stuff, and then he's like, I'm gonna put all this together and make math based on all math, and then he, like, maybe not all of it, but, like, well, pretty much. So and then we take that and we build off of that, and even through, like, generations and traditions and sort of, like, social culture, what new things we have to experience in modern life that we've never been able to experience makes me love life.
Yeah, well, no, but see, that's just it. You're not supposed to love that life. That's the second life. That's that second life you weren't supposed to love. You're supposed to just be able to live in abundance purely, without jealousy, without hate, without needing, without survival, and everybody helps everybody, gives food to everybody. Like, it's not supposed to be like this. But we think we can build that society, but yet we don't believe in God. Well, I want to ask you, where did you even get the idea that you could build that society? Exactly.
Just by living.
Just by living. Oh, yeah, so life just shows up. It just fucking showed up out of the fucking blue. And we're just here with no direct purpose. And that goes back to that idea, which, again, after everything I've said in this podcast, you literally can't look at atheism and seriously tell me that that's even fucking logical or even a little smart. Atheists, first of all, I don't give a fuck who this offends. Oh, I love offending people on the podcast. Number one, you don't know shit. Why do I know shit? For the same reason you don't know shit. Okay? I love that about people that believe different things. Well, why do you know? Aren't you being a little entitled? Aren't you being entitled, telling me I'm being entitled because I'm not agreeing with you? It's the same fucking game. I can play this all fucking day. I love it. I love it when people try to fuck with me like that. They're like, you're being egotistical. And you're not? That statement alone shows your ego. that statement alone. The fact that
keep it in check.
Hey, so no,
Some
but
of us don't have the
check
same
this out.
option.
Check this out. I live off ideas, right? So if I live off ideas, I'm literally transfusing ideas as they pop into my head, and I explain them as I see the picture coming into my mind. And then somebody says, it might be a good stream. Maybe it makes your mind open. And then they go, well, what makes that idea the best? Why do you know that? Why does it matter why I fucking know that? First of all, second of all, why does it make it the best? Well, you thought it was the best. That was your thought when you received it. You're like, oh, it's the best idea. Well, fuck this guy. That was your thought. That's your great humanity. That's your fucking, like, look at how far we've come. You haven't come fuck all. You haven't done nothing. I don't care what you built. I don't give a shit what's been built. All I care is the fact of that evolution. And that evolution hasn't budged. It hasn't moved an inch. It's same fucking thing. Still, yes, because it's always been there. Because humans think they're smart, but they can't get rid of sin. They can't get rid of that seed. That seed is always going to exist no matter what. Until the creation of what creates that decides that that seed can't be there.
I think that it's so connected with like our survival responses. You can't get rid of it.
No, what do you mean connected with your survival responses? This is my survival response. 4 years old, when I died from that mushroom and I lived. Oh, that was a fun 4 years. Because true death, that's the survival response. The survival response is a lie. The survival response is fear of dying.
Yeah.
So
that would compel people to do things that are sinful if they thought they were about to die.
Why? Check this out.
Because they want to survive.
I lived, didn't I?
Or they want to live more before they die.
Yeah, they want more. They want more. It's not good enough. So if I'm put on earth and I'm meant to die when I'm 4 and I'm created and I'm meant to die, or I'm meant to live. I was clearly meant to live. I'm still here, aren't I? Okay? But why would I want more? I don't go, well, society is trying to fucking turn us into robots and I should probably jump board and figure out how to become a robot so we can live forever because I don't want to die either and I don't want to rush this. No, I don't think that. I think, I'm here. Thankful. At this stage in the game, I'm actually thinking, holy fuck, God, why couldn't you let me die?
There's probably times, right?
Oh, all the time.
I think about death too, or dying.
Yeah.
You know, like.
But like, here's the deal. It's not to be
there.
feared.
I mean, there's all that there is life. Death is nothing. Death is something that happens, right?
Really? You've experienced death? You've died?
No, that's why it's nothing for me, because I don't understand it. I don't know what it is. It's something that I'm not going to have until I'm no more. You know, when I die, I don't exist anymore.
Use your words appropriately.
Only my memories do.
Better.
You know, I have a body that's dead, but I
See
can't
how important?
live
Look,
anymore.
Taylor,
all that I was is all that it's going to remain.
Look how important words are. What you intended to fucking communicate at first is not what you communicated.
I know. I need to practice communicating. So I think writing songs, singing might help.
Oh,
or getting a job where I talk to people.
It helps, yeah. So anyways, death though? Death is nothing in your mind because you haven't experienced it. But I'm telling you, death is not nothing. I have experienced what it's like to almost die. I did die, and then I woke up hours later and managed to keep living. I know what it's like to pass away. I know that feeling. nuts, not to be feared. And it was crazy because I was having that trip because I ate that poisonous mushroom right before I died. When I died, like we're talking 5 hours out, like I'm not breathing. Okay? Then I wake up. But when I died, it was the same as the trip when I was awake.
What do you mean?
The image that I saw before I died was still the image that remained.
What was that image of you leaving?
Yeah, it was this like, literally, it was that moment. I'm eating a poisonous mushroom, things are blackening out, and the thoughts were, well, thanks God, that was a good 4 years. The thoughts aren't, oh, I want to live more, or I want to do this more, or I like, oh, I'm too young to die. There was that minor bit of fear. I felt that in me at that age. There was like a slight pull, but then it's just this calming feeling. It's okay. It's perfectly okay. Let it happen. And when it did, and I woke up and my life was anew again, I realized a death doesn't mean shit. I was dead for 5 hours. I was clinically dead. Back then, you phone the doctor. You're out on the farm. You're in the country. Dad's on the phone with the doctor. He's not waking up. Oh, he woke up. He just woke up. And now I'm high as shit and rolling around. But like, fucking, it's 10 o'clock at night. I ate this mushroom at like 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock. I hadn't been breathing for hours. I'm dead. I am lying on a bed, dead.
What did you get? How did you revive?
I just woke up because that seeded this consciousness. There was that thought in my mind. I was like, I'm too young to die, or there's more here. And I'm like, God, is this really it? That was what I said to myself at that moment. 4 years old. That was what I said in the moment of dying. God, is this really it? And that thought maintained. And I remember just laying there and in blackness, and it was like communication. It was like I was getting an upload. I felt like a USB being plugged into something. And then all of a sudden, I fucking wake up. And apparently around me, I was dead. And the people around me perceive me as dead. And my dad's on the phone with the doctor, and I've been dead, and I'd ate this poisonous mushroom that would have killed me. This isn't a magic mushroom, folks. So I'm clinically dead, but then I'm awake. And to me, it's like a dream. To them, I was dead for 5 hours. I come back and I'm like, cool. And I'm feeling better about all these shit things that happened to me in my childhood, where I had this lawnmower blade cut me and my Uncle Arnold ran over my leg and me being thrown off the swather. And I come back to and I'm like feeling refreshed. I'm feeling replenished. I feel like new consciousness. I feel like there was a reason that these things happened at this point, because there's a reason God didn't allow me to die at that moment.
That's good. What do you think the reason was?
Well, right now, the reason is clear. The reason is clear that I'm a rapper, and yeah, I got that hard shit in me, and I want to talk about the hard shit, but I'm not sitting here being like, everybody give your life to Jesus because he's your savior. I'm not saying that shit's not true. I believe it full-heartedly. What I'm doing is I'm saying, this is my life, and if you don't believe after my life, you're a fucktard. Because I've experienced it. I've experienced death. I've experienced drugs. I've experienced losing my house. I've experienced hunger. I've experienced fucking pain. I've experienced like almost losing my foot. I've experienced almost bleeding to death. I've experienced fucking being yelled at every day. I experienced physical abuse. I experienced mental abuse. I experienced fucking car accidents. I experienced inventions. I experienced technology. I experienced every fucking thing. Just to sit here and tell you all are fucking wrong. And people ask me why do I get the right to do that? I don't know. Why did I get the right to fucking keep living? I have no fucking clue, but I'm telling you, so fucking listen. And that's the same with anybody. When somebody pleads somebody enough to know something, there's reason. You see? I don't care. I don't get no satisfaction out of it. If you go to bed and believe in something.
Logic for reason. I always
Yeah.
put logic because reason can easily become unreasonable if you change reason.
Well,
Like
it depends how you
become very selfish if you're propelled by reason. But if you aren't prepared with logic, then you look stupid. So I end up looking dumb.
Yeah, no, but logic is kind of stupid in a way, right? So there's this other part in the Bible. He says, I will frustrate the ways of the wise. He's like, I will confuse the ways of logical thinkers. And he's like, and I will mess with the psychology. This is God saying this to people.
Why would he do that?
Because he's like, man's going to start taking wisdom from me. They're going to draw power from me. They're going to draw their own knowledge. They're growing on their own now without God. They're taking from the source of what God created them from and doing it by themselves. And he's saying like, no. He's like, fucking want no part of it. Let you fucking do it. Do it. See what happens. Kind of like, yeah, so check this out. When I was starving, and when I say starving, I don't use that word lightly. I have gone multiple weeks without food. What's the longest the body can go without food? What they tell you is a fucking lie. That is a fucking lie. You can go more, what was that, 14 days or 7 days without food? You can go with fluids or something? Or 21 days, you can go without food and only fluids? That's a fucking lie. It's a lie.
I'm not going to test it. Are you going to test it? Why would you say
I did test it.
You've gone farther than that.
Dude, I had 2 years. I spent 2 years of my fucking life. I spent 2 years of my life where I ate once a week.
That's fucked up, man. How do you
2 years of my life where I ate once a week. And not because I fucking wanted to, right? Because I had to. Because, first of all, my parents, they didn't have money. It wasn't like, oh, Mom, I'm out of food when I'm moving out of home like the rest of y'all. You know? Everybody had that. It wasn't like that. Yeah, the odd time my parents had money and they could help me out with a few grocery items. So we're talking ramen noodles for Dollar Tree, candy, sugar, and some fucking shit. We're not talking like fucking salads and potatoes and meats and all that shit you're not even should be eating. Like, we're not even talking vegetables here. We're talking like once a week. I'm lucky if I get to eat. And then I would get 1 week out of the year. Maybe I would have groceries for that week. And for 2 years, this goes on. This is what drove my stomach to be as in bad of shape as what it was. So like you probably remember times I was like, hey Taylor, can I borrow $10 because I don't have fucking food? This isn't my exaggeration, and this is why I would get so mad at those times. It wasn't because you said no or nothing. It had nothing to do with that. What it had to do with yeah, there was times too. Yeah, what it had to do with was the fact that like I know for a fact that almost anybody that I had ever asked to help me in those times, if they were in that situation, they could send one text message to their parents and 5 minutes later it would be okay. And that's fact. I know that. And so I'm like, yeah, but yet they're selfish enough to say when it's not me, I don't give a fuck. And so then they go, no, man, that's not right. Like, we serve the society of money, and I like that's not right. And he's asking for money, and he did this once before, and he did this again. And the best part is fucking if it was me being asked and I had it, I would never say no, no matter who it is. And that's the fucking difference. Well,
it's to a point where I start to fuck myself over because I'm trying to help other people.
Yeah, okay.
I'm better than now.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah, you don't want to do that. No, but like my point being is like what we call fucked over even. Okay, so let's discuss that. You're like of the point where I'm fucked over.
So like where you can't afford your regular bills of
Okay, you're calling regular bills. You're calling regular bills fucked over. I went 13 of my years of my life not affording that shit, including my parents losing their house. Fucking. So, what does that mean? Does it mean you die? Oh my God, I can't afford my bills. I'm gonna die. Well, I'm still fucking here.
Oh. No, it doesn't mean that at all.
Oh, so it just means you can't live in that luxury. It just means that you can't do that. Do you see how selfish human ways really are? Do you see what I'm pointing out here? What I'm saying is we don't give a fuck if somebody had Nate for fucking 3 weeks. Here's the society of money. It's just like, that hasn't happened to us. So that person's probably making it up. They probably did eat like 2 days ago. They're fine. I don't give a fuck. Leave me alone. I got shit to do. And then that person one day shows up dead. You wonder why that person's doing drugs. And they're like, oh, you spend money on drugs. No, drugs are free. You sell drugs, you can do drugs. Simple. You maybe don't make anything on it. So then people are like, oh, well, you have all this money for drugs and you do this and you have money to drink and you do this. Well, first of all, don't you all do that? And second of all, what makes you different? And here's the best part. We look at people and we're like, oh, my parents used to even do it to me. Oh, you on the weed and you on this. And it's just like, you choose to do it and you spend your money on these things, or other people, right? So check this out. Why is the weed shop open during COVID? Because it's considered an essential fucking need. Isn't that fascinating? So anyways, my whole point being is all these things that people have done to me, I wouldn't do it to them. Even the best part is even after they fucking done it to me, I still would. I have $17 in my bank. I had last night, $17 in my bank account. And this chick I was talking to, I slept with her last summer. Haven't fucking had much interaction with her in 8 months, 9 months, right? She's right now taking care of a baby because her little sister, and she's in her young 20s, taking care of a baby, a little sister who's same age-ish, went to mental health, got herself locked up for 30 days. And now she's watching her child, and they were supposed to be moving, and they didn't have enough for the damage deposit and stuff. And so now the moving got delayed, and she's stuck watching her sister's kid, and they can't move, and they got this money, and they're ready to move, and they can't right now. And then on top of it, she has no money for food because they're supposed to be using all that money for moving. So I send her the $17, and she's like, the question is out of her mouth, like, why are you being so nice to me? And my response is not, I'm not being nice to you. I went through that. I know what it feels like. I'm like, I've starved before. I know. I'm like, when was the last time you ate? The minute she said one thing, she didn't even say I hadn't ate or whatever. She said one thing, and I'm like, when was the last time you ate? And I just sent it to her. I didn't even fucking wait for her to ask me. And I'm not saying I'm a good person, and I'm not trying to be ego. I'm just saying, fucking, why can't everybody be like that? I fucking did it. So either go with one or two options. Either humans are capable of it, or I'm not human. Pick one. Fucking pick one. But I love how people will sit here and tell me, though, that it can't be done. But I do it every fucking day.
Who's telling you it can't be done?
Everybody. Okay, you go up to somebody and you say, okay, you got rent coming up, right? And you got a car payment. So let's say this, okay? You've never missed your rent in 1 year. You have no choice in your mind. You have to either miss one or the other. You know that if you miss one car payment on a car you've been paying for 5 years, they're going to take it. Okay? You know for sure they're going to do that. And you got this rent, which you've been paying, and something comes up, and this is life. And everybody knows life happens. And so now you have to make a decision. What bill are you going to pay? Because there is only so much money. So the car payment's $400, and you owe $400 to rent. And you only have $400. And so you pay the car payment because you got to get around. You got to get to work. That would be my thought. The house can go. There's other houses. The rent can go. I can get evicted. I could live in my car. But I got to get to fucking work. I got to have a way of getting another job. I got to have somewhere to be once I lose the house. The car is more important. So check this out. I'll do that. I'll make that sacrifice. I'll lose my house. And then I'm like on the phone, hey, Corey, can I come stay at your house? Kind of have all my stuff in my car. Okay? And this is because I can't call mom and dad up with that $800 to just come bail my ass out like every last one of my friends had. I don't know one person that was fucking actually homeless. They say they were homeless. They weren't homeless. They left home because they fucking didn't want to listen to their parents. Like, because her parents gave them a rule they didn't like. That's not homeless. Homeless is you can't live anywhere. Because the people in your life are a piece of shit and think they're good people. That's homeless. Starving is your fridge is empty for 3 or 4 weeks when you're 12. You get one meal a day. It's borscht, it's soup, chopped up beets and hamburger and tomato, which you fucking have medical issues that cause problems with. See, this is where I came up with the idea is people should not judge people by the choice they had to fucking choose from. This is where I've come up with the idea society doesn't serve it properly. And this is where I opened the Bible and I said, this wisdom was discovered. This is correct. It says it right here. What I'm saying about man is said right here by a man fucking thousands of years ago who was actually rich. Who was actually a king. And he says, no, don't chase these things. This is unimportant. He's like, I've had concubines, I've had all these riches, I've had everything I could ever dream of having, and it's still not enough. So what is enough? And then he starts talking about his relationship with God.
Is that Solomon?
Yes, this would be Solomon.
That's pretty early in the Bible.
This is Proverbs. This is actually just before the New Testament. This is actually pretty late in the Bible.
Oh. I gotta read the whole thing full, like cover to cover. Like I've gone
Proverbs,
like bits.
you pretty much have like Proverbs, Psalms. I can't remember the total exact order. I should know that. And then it pretty much goes in the New Testament like a book or two after that or something. It's like pretty much almost the New Testament at that point. This is the point in time where people haven't had a king for thousands of years, other than there's slavery in some countries. And then the people, the Jews, the ones that God apparently delivered to the promised land, or were trying to deliver to the promised land, they were like, we want a king to lead our people. And God's like, you don't need a king. They're like, all governments have a king. And God's like, no, I'm leading you. You don't need a king. And then they were like, no, we need a king. And God is like, fine, you want a king? Here, make your king. Pick one. Do a king. That's where voting comes in. and they fucking pick a king. And then he says, but this is what I tell you, that king will enslave you. These things will happen. That's exactly what happened. Moses was a born slave in Egypt. Oh, wait, not Moses. The one after that. Moses, his kid. I can't remember his name. But anyways, he's actually an Egyptian. He's actually an Egyptian. He wasn't. His nationality's not. But he gets sold in slavery, and then he climbs up the rankings in the Egyptian world. And then later, he's the one that take those people who are been in slavery for 30 years out. People of his own race and his own. These are the Jewish people we're enslaving, and he's like helping the Egyptians enslave these people. But as a child, he was a Jew, but he was enslaved by the Egyptians. He's adapted to the Egyptian way of living.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the Pharaoh because he has direct relationship, and he says, "These are my people. Like this is where I've originated from." He's right hand of the king. His brothers sell him in slavery out of jealousy. Years and years before that, and there's a great famine. There's a great famine.
And he comes all the way back up.
And he climbs up a whole nother society, and then his brothers are the ones coming to him, asking him, hey, we need some rice. And he's looking at him, and his brothers have no idea who he is. But he knows who they are.
That's tricky. That would be something to be like to know that at the time, like wow.
And he's still nice to them. And that right there, that's the one thing that if I tell most people, they're like, why? Why would you do that? I wouldn't do that. Everybody says it too. They're like, fuck, let people walk all over you like that. That's how they take advantage. Because they serve society, because they serve money right there. That alone. Don't let people walk all over you. You got to earn your spot. You got to fight for your spot. You don't get to just have it. That's a demonic voice telling you that. That's the devil. That's that deceit. That's that switch. It's saying that you don't deserve to fucking have peace. You have to earn it. You didn't deserve to have life. You never had to earn that. So you don't deserve to have to not have peace. But to turn away from your peace, or to turn to peace, that's a whole nother process. That requires death. So that requires preparation while living. Hence the name Bible, basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Takes like a spiritual death, I think.
No, there's still death. Are you hungry? Are you going to be hungry today? Are you going to eat food today?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to eat today, right? Is that not a feeling? That's a feeling you have, right?
Yeah.
Well, that apparently didn't fucking exist in the days of Adam and Eve, before the sin.
Okay, what's the point? What's the connection, though?
The connection isn't that a torturous thing? I think that all the time. To have to get up and eat. The fact that you have to tell yourself, go eat. The fact that you even have to do it. It's a torturous thing. Hunger is not a good feeling. That's not a good feeling. I don't want to eat. I don't like eating. Eating is a waste of my fucking time. You see what I'm saying? And when I eat, that's what my immune system digests. That's what gets sick. My digestive system is what's failing. The fault is life. The fault is not myself. The fault is not what I'm eating. The fault is life. The fault is my digestive system can't handle that. My digestive system can't do those things. So, in order to fix it, there's no disease. There's no hunger. There's just that feeling of, do you know when you're on mushrooms and you're just traveling through knowledge and you're like, wow. That's all life will ever be. The greatest feeling of life is life itself. Why do you think we want to be reborn so fucking badly? Why do you think that feeling awakens us when we're like, oh, we're being reminded what it was like to have life breathed into you? When you're hungry enough and you haven't ate for like, I don't know, even 3 or 4 days, your stomach feels deep enough, it feels empty enough. Here's a good way to describe it. I'm not sure if you've gone that long, but if you have, I challenge you to try it one time. Here's a way to describe the stomach when it's dropping. It's like your soul is bottomless.
That's kind of interesting. Bottomless.
You feel your stomach full.
Yeah.
I have a very fucked up view of life, but it's not really that fucked up to me. This is the most logical view. And I look at people and people are like, why does this view? Why does this mean? Why do you think you have the truth? I don't know. Why did the Egyptians think they should build a pyramid? Why do you think you need to make a rock song? Why do I think anything I do? Why do you think what you do? I could ask you the same fucking question. Why do you do what you do? No, I don't do that. I say, hey, nice creation. So when somebody's telling you the laws of creation because they've discovered them, usually you think you listen to it, no? If somebody was like, oh, lightning, I wonder what that light in the sky is. And then they get zapped by lightning and they live and they say, don't do that. Don't go outside with a metal fork. You'd be pretty stupid to go outside with a metal fork. We call that science. But if somebody says, hey, I seen the devil, but fucking don't go there. We call that, how do you know that? Just because you can't see it. Well, the person probably saw it. So listen to their experience. Listen to what they've taken in. Listen to what they saw. Because you can't tell them it's not real no matter how many fucking scientific ways you can come up with what's reality and what isn't. Because it fucking happened. They experienced it and they grew from it. That happened.
Yeah. The only way to really like help a person with their thoughts is to ask them questions. Get them into asking the questions that they need to ask themselves. That's how you kind of get them to take a step back. Right?
Well, I don't know if it's about getting people to take a step back. I don't know what I want to get people to do. I'm just trying to give the information that people are dumb. I love that people
so you get them on the questioning train that they need to be on, or at least that they could be on. Maybe it's not right. You don't know, right? You know, all you have is your questions, but maybe they don't know to ask those questions. So if you give them some questions, and they'll be like, maybe
people
I'll find
like
the
simple. People like simple. So let's make it in a simple translation. Okay? People could listen to me and think that I'm calling everybody dumb and think that I'm so smart because I have obtained this knowledge. No, this is why I'm calling everybody dumb. That right there, that shows ego. Well, I'm calling everybody dumb, that includes myself. I've done all the same fucking things. I'm just smart enough to listen to it. That's it. That's all it fucking is. It's no different. I'm not calling you guys dumb. I'm not saying I'm not dumb. I'm saying we're all dumb. Stop thinking you're smart as a person and a person saying, what makes you so smart? Because they're so fucking smart. They already understand consciousness and I'm me and you're you and you fucking moron. You're a fucking disgrace.
How do you build the bridge first, though?
I don't really like to build the bridge. I actually like to just squash the fucking ego. And then when they want to know why I get a right to squash their ego, it's because the only way you squash an ego is to be extremely right. Without room for argument.
Prepared in logic. I gotta get my logic prepared.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, logical warfare, I guess. But yes, but I'm not sitting here to be like, oh, I'm gonna be right and I want to be right. I'm sitting here and be like, let's learn what's true. That's the first indicator. Let's learn what's true. And if we're gonna learn what's true, let's look at the aspect that we're just jumping over. And the aspect we're jumping over is like, oh, look, humanity was created to create things. Look at what we're creating. No, you jumped over. Humanity stuck their hand in the power of what created things and started creating things without God. See? Half truth, full truth. I don't fuck. And people are like, oh, well, what's God and what's this? I don't give a shit. Figure it out. We all have to.
I should talk to some more people.
You should.
I don't know what people say very much. Because I end up having a hard time. I try to explain something or breach of subject, and then I have such a hard time after seeing where they're at with their thoughts. I'm like, okay, what? Either they try to, either it's an ego thing and I don't see it, or it's just a matter of I don't have the vocabulary to make the connection there. You
don't have yet the mental capacity yet. See,
I haven't figured out. Taylor,
I can't give advice without experiencing.
Then I'll see where people's thoughts are on something like that I know a bit more of. I'm not going to explain God. I'm not going to explain all the things that you explain.
So yeah, you can't give advice without experiencing it. You have to experience it. So I have whatever advice I have to share. See, this is what's interesting about humanity, is if I tell you something about God, people will say, what makes you right? But if I burn my hand and tell you don't touch that, you'll burn my hand, then you'll listen. Do you know why that is? That's the perfect illustration of faith. That's because that's in front of you and you can see it and you understand it's hot. And because you see it and you know its immediate effect is pain, you won't do it. But if I tell you where the source of your life comes from, even though you can't see that, you'll tell me, why do I know that? But you can tell me a thought's a real thing. You'll tell me I have thoughts of my own. Well, where did that come from? Where did the source of that come from? So you're going to tell me, here's another thought, but then you're going to completely debunk what I'm saying about all of thought. and saying, why do I know? Because you're so used to people having such narrow-minded opinions that you're going to assume to me that I don't know that. Because I can't possibly know that because you don't know that. That's the ego. Because for all you fucking know, I could be God standing in fucking front of you.
I do know some things. I mean, my computer's in front of me. There's no God standing in front of me, right? But
well, no, you could be. You could be it. What if you were it? What if you grew up to one day realize and have this awakening that you were actually God? Let me finish. That you were actually God and you were supposed to save all the people. Would you just not act on it because there's no way that could be true? No, you would probably act on it if you felt it was true enough, right?
If there was the will.
Yeah, exactly. The will of God. So he says it's the word. And people right away, they're like the Bible. No, he says the word was God. The word was God. The word we use is God.
Yeah.
And God was
Bible,
the word.
God was used.
And God was the word. So this exterior inspiration, and we know we're getting inspiration from one side and we know we're getting it from the other side. So check this out. Two sides of the triangle. The right-hand path, the left-hand path.
Okay. And they both connect. So then, and then in the middle is that eye, right? And then that eye is the artistic eye. I mean, it's
so
also
no, but check this out. But at the very top is another circle yet again, and it's the circle of eternity, and it goes around the top of the triangle. So you got, like, even on the dollar bill, you got the big circle here, then you got the top of the triangle, then you have a space where you see the eye, and then you got the bottom of the triangle, right? That's the separation between man and God. There's the eye. There's the life that separated man and God, that second awakening you weren't supposed to fucking have. Yeah. And then there's both paths. There's the way to God at the top. There's the right-hand path and there's a left-hand path. Pretty simple to me. I love fucking spirituality. I love symbolism. I love that thing. I love that those things mean that. No matter what you believe. Because that's a symbol that's existed since the Freemasons came into existence. Which the Freemasons started when Solomon gave information to one of the architects of his temple. Solomon gives information to an architect, and an architect passes on that information. But Solomon didn't have a kid because he doesn't pass on the blessing to David. That's one thing we don't see. We see this king's passing on the blessing the whole time. And then all of a sudden with Solomon and David, we have war and we don't see a blessing anymore passed on. Well, that's because the blessing, which was the knowledge, was passed on through the masonry. At that point. And then we had other things take place after. So this knowledge gets passed on so the good works can continue. Jesus can still come. And it's interesting in the story to me. Out of all of Jesus, here's the most interesting part of the story. He says, the path must be built for the one who can come who is greater than I. John says this. But it isn't them that's building the path. John's baptizing people because he believes this is coming. But he's not building the path. Neither is the Jews because they're enslaved. Neither is anybody else. Nobody's building this path. What was building the path? Solomon's knowledge that had been passed down was building the path. And then check this out. You find out God's a carpenter. So he was doing geometry. He's doing math. He's this carpenter. He's got this knowledge that nobody else has, apparently, but yet Solomon just dies and this knowledge goes vacant. And then it just resurfaces in Christ. And then Christianity is born. See, they don't realize how many ties to Freemasonry there really is. That's why I call them the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
They are the gatekeepers, and then the Illuminati is like the guardians of hell.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I was really thinking of, like, that could be very true, but that the Masons and stuff like that were like very involved with building churches. because they're stone workers, and they got their tools of measurement, right?
Yeah, so
they literally built churches.
You're building temples and churches, and then Egyptians are building pyramids and great wonders.
Well, no, that was before. It's like the Illuminati. They're the ones that didn't forget the other things that we knew. They didn't forget about Egypt. They didn't forget about Gnosis. Yeah. They didn't forget about all these other pursuits, Kabbalah, you know. And then there was the Masons who were just like, we're building churches. This is it all adds up. You know, they're looking through the Bible, and that's Masons.
Yeah. So they're building churches, right? And they're building these physical buildings. But yes, Egyptians still building wonders. They're building the Sphinx. They're worshiping cats. They're worshiping golden cows. We have fucking Assyria worshiping things. We have Baal, another god, showing up. We have all these things. And they're all living spirits of things. Do you know how I know that? Because sacrifice...
That comes together to create new ideas, too.
So check this out. I know this for a fact.
Coming into the present.
I know this for a fact. If a man wants to learn what sacrifice really means, he does not have to sacrifice another man. All as a man has to do is study that word long enough to come to know what it means. And I guarantee you, the devil will be licking you at the end of it.
Wait, what? That's a ticklish tongue you got, Satan.
Yeah, no, literally. I'm serious. Remember how I told you I was upside down in the fucking... That was from the question, what is sacrifice? I'm like figuring out what is sacrifice. I'm like, what is sacrifice? And I'm upside down in this cross all of a sudden. I start seeing this images, and I'm in this pentagram, and Satan, like this goat, is walking up me with this long ass tongue, and he's licking me. And if you look up what the mark of the devil is, like on Google, if you're like, what's the actual mark of the devil, and you Wikipedia this shit, this was called the witch's lick. It was considered when you had tapped into magic and the devil licks you. And they were talking about this in the 1400s, and I've experienced this feeling, and I'm like, holy fuck. And I'm like, so this completely...
Sounds medieval.
Yeah, this completely re-channels my evolution of what I thought the mark was. Because it's just like, you're looking at Revelation, you're looking at all this modern technology, and people are like, this is the mark of the devil. And I'm like, I'm looking at the history of the mark of the devil, and they're saying the mark of the devil is tapping into this knowledge. And then this happening.
It actually was real.
Yeah. So like...
Did you know that before that happened, or did you learn that it...
I learned that almost a year later. So this happens, and one day I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, so I typed it in, and I'm like, the devil licking you in a pentagram. Like, I want to see if other people have had it. Right away, shit came up, and an image pops up on Google, and it was the exact image. It was the exact image of what I saw. It was exactly how I felt. I'm upside down on the cross, and it's the goat, and where he was and how he was licking me. It was exactly the same. It was not different. And I'm like, so this image from the 1400s is nailing a spiritual experience I'm having in 2020. So I'm like, I don't really give a fuck. I'm like, this is real at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so real things happen.
But this is after I've had time to reflect on it, right? Like, I'm like looking this up long after I'm sober, and I'm like going into Google, and I'm like, so what is this experience? And it comes up. This is considered the witch's mark or the beast's mark. This is the mark of the beast. I'm like, what? That's the mark of the beast? I'm like, so I've received this mark. I've received this marking. I'm like, I've been licked by the devil. And it's a sign. It's this thing in the hand. And because this whole thing with Christ, where Christ says, but all as you have to do is choose to be in my hand and away from Satan. But when you choose Satan, you can't be in my hand. But it's a choice. This isn't forever now. Back in the Old Testament, back in the witches' days, if this would have happened, you would have gone to hell. You would have had no choice. God wouldn't have forgiven you. There was no atonement for that. So you would have gone to a temple with a goat, but the glory of God would have killed you in the temple. Because your guilt from so bad of doing something so rotten and from that time would have killed you. You would have felt you had to commit suicide. You would have been like Jude. You would have been like, I just abandoned life. I just did this thing that was so bad. That's this deep sin that drives you to kill yourself. And there's the spirit of a demon. There's where we get suicide. There's where we get darkness. There's where we get more than just murder. So first you got murder, and now you got suicide popping up, and you got this popping up, and you got that popping up. But I'm having this experience in 2020 the same way I'm having this, or somebody had this experience fucking in the 1400s, right? And so I'm sitting there laying, and the devil, he's got these claws, and he's fucking on top of me, and I'm like this big beast, and how little I am. This makes you feel powerful because you're withstanding these blows of these claws into your kidneys. And he slashes one kidney and he pulls out, and you feel like this energy coming out of it. And it's just like, and you almost see the trickle of magic, and it's like a splash of this mystical shit coming out of your kidney. And you're looking at this and you see it come out in your in your conscious, and it's like, okay, this is magic. And then on the other side, he's slashing your other key, and he's looking at you like with this intense look, and he's going back and forth with his claws repetitively, and you think you're going to die, and he's like, you won't die, and you have to trust me, and you're going, and you're going, and you're going. And what does that sound like? That sounds like Adam and Eve. We go back to the beginning. He's like, you won't surely die. You won't die. You can have from the tree. You're not going to die. And I'm fucking having this happen, and he's like, you'll die. And he's like, no, you won't. Trust me. And then with a fucking, he stops being so intense, and then he's like, while he stops, he's like, both grips in, no longer one then the other. Now both claws are in the kidneys, and he's like, this is sacrifice. And I'm like, that's life. I'm like, that's sacrifice. I gain my power from this source. You see what I'm doing here? And now I'm going to project it into this other thing. And so I'm looking at this, and the deceit is not whether I'm talking to the devil at this point. The deceit is I think I'm talking to God. And I never ask him. I don't ask. I'm like, what? Are you? Are you God? Are you this? I don't ask this thing this question. Right? And when it's like, this is sacrifice, now I start to think about Jesus, because immediately when and isn't that an interesting link? First, I'm having this experience where I know that's Satan. I know, like, I physically know this is the image that's been used to describe Satan in all of my existence, right? And I physically know this is him. And I'm like, no, this guy's telling me the truth. It's okay. I grew up in the church. I grew up being told that this would happen one day or could happen. But then I realized, I'm like, the church isn't even experiencing this. They're not. I'm like, this is the real deal. This is really what it means to eat the apple. I'm like, this is really what it means to be awoken. I'm like, you're sacrificing. And Satan's just sitting there. He's like, no, I'll keep you alive. He's like, because every time you think you're going to die, he's like, I'm going to pump you with that other hand. And then he's like, and then I'm going to take from you some of that energy because I need it. But then I'm going to give you more. And he's like, and I'll let the cycle keep going. And he's like, is that not life? Ups and downs? Is that not how it goes? And then he describes a thought, and he uses the deceit of God to make it sound like God never really existed. Like that was just this idea of God in my head. And he says, what did God ever do for you? I'm telling you how life is. I'm showing you how it is. Obviously, I'm right. So what did this God do for you in the end? And then this interesting thing, because I talked to somebody else that had a similar experience to this, and they did the same thing. Threw their middle finger to the sky. Fuck you, God. And that's what I did. And in that moment, I felt this power come over me. And at that very point in time, it was like, I start rapping, and I hadn't rapped in years. Like, it's been a couple of years. I've been with Cass. I hadn't been writing rap music. I hadn't been doing this. And I start rapping. And the rap song, like, I think I told you a story before. It was like, fuck God, you motherfucker. You just fucking never give me life. And all I did was suffer. And I start going through these fucking rhymes. And I'm like, and I still remember them. And I'm like, got these shades on. And I'm like now wearing shades everywhere. I'm wearing shades indoors. I'm doing this. I fucking take mushrooms again the next day. And now I feel these spirits around me. And then I feel this thing like this, that same voice that thing, close the door. I close the door, and it's just like, here's Kanye West, here's the Illuminati. You're in the same room as all these people on Earth right now. Isn't that cool? Welcome to fucking communication. And you're like, whoa. And these are the secrets that you guys are fucking holding out on. And at that moment, I remember, like, fucking nobody was even at the house, but something was like, close the door when I walked into this room, right? And I'm like, nobody's here. And they're like, close the door. And so you close the door, and here I am in my shades and my sunglasses, and I realized, and I'm like, and I'm looking at my room, and I'm looking at my skull pipe, and I'm looking at how I have everything laid out, and I realize, I'm like, this is the underground. I live in basements. I'm like, this is the underground. I'm like, meetings. I'm like, this is the underground. Gold chambers, desks, chairs, philosophy. This is the underground. This is this dark place. This is Hades. This is that underground. I'm like, this is the movement in life. I'm like, the underground movement is the cult. I'm like, this is. And there was this fascination with it, this picture. And I'm a part of it now. The devil has single-handedly come to me and invited me into it. And I'm like sitting here and I'm like, whoa. And remember, I'm like, okay. I finished tripping, and months later, I was like, wow, that was some trippy shit. And then my phone, ding, goes off, and here's a email from the Illuminati. Months later, at the moment that I say that was a trip, well, I'm glad it was a trip and none of it's actually real. That was what I said to myself at that moment. And at that very second, my phone goes off, and I have an email from the Illuminati saying, welcome, Greg.
Doesn't that make you think that there's other powers out there beyond your control, I guess?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I mean, you already
100%.
knew that, right?
So yeah. So then I got into the seals. I got into magic. I've been trying to explain this to people. I've been like trying to explain to people. I found power I don't think people have found yet. I'm like trying to tell people this.
I just posted that song on SoundCloud right away. Illuminati member is trying to get me to follow them and wants me to pay them to promote my music. Kinda weird.
Okay, so here's
it's
the
like literally straight up. It's like, welcome to the Illuminati Brotherhood. Submit your track.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. So
I'd rather keep my music.
Bro. Here's the deal. The real deal does not require money. The real deal does not require riches and forever kingdom. The real deal is in here, and it requires where you draw your power from. It's a choice. You serve one or you serve the other. You are either Lucifer's light bearer or you are Christ's peace worker. Those are the two sides. You are one or the other. I don't care if you're Buddhist. I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're a murderer. I don't care. Because you can be a murderer and regret what you did. You can be a murderer and regret what we did. We always make mistakes. I don't think a murderer is any different than somebody that lied to their mom. It's all sin. It's all wrong. Right? So I love that that's humanity's measure. Yeah, well, I stole once, but drug addicts are such a piece of shit. Why are they in the inner city anyways? Why are they there? We shouldn't have them there. We got to figure out how we got to deal with this. And we got the war on drugs, and we got to be fighting this war. And we're saving lives here because this is killing them. I'll show you something else that kills, a bullet in the head, which you do across seas all the fucking time and don't tell nobody about it.
Weird how people get their opinions from TV. Or like news. But like, there's better sources and worse sources. I mean, I tend to like people that get their opinions from South Park more than who get their opinions from.
Yeah. I don't know,
CNN.
I watched a documentary that says, but look at how much we've embraced this in our society, and it's true. It comes to truth. We're like, because in Revelations he talks about they're gonna all worship the beast, and they're gonna think that this is a good thing. Okay, right? Well, look at it. Fucking Beauty and the Beast. Let's look at that. Oh, the Beauty and the Beast. What is the beast?
I think that
Got
that's
goat legs. He's got
a terrible
goat
story
legs.
for
No,
girls.
no, no. Let me. I'm gonna use multiple. So don't just fucking get hung
Give the
up on
beast a
one.
chance. He'll change. He'll turn into a
Yeah,
prince.
yeah. Give the beast a chance. He'll change. Okay, so first one's there. Let's go magnificent. Another one. Evil witch with the cauldron. Seen as what?
Was the
I'm this
dragon?
evil. Yeah, with the dragon, which dragon is described very clearly is the representative symbolism of Satan. That's why there's the famous picture of Michael driving his sword into a dragon. Satan is considered the dragon. Okay, so she's got this dragon, she's got this pet. So this is showing you literally what we're doing. Oh, I'm getting my source from this. I'm creating this piece of art. It's the arts. This is a movie arts, which I'm creating this image that this thing isn't actually that bad. Look, evil isn't as it looks. So now the statement of judge a book by its cover comes into play, and that's considered true. Don't judge a book by its cover. Not fucking don't judge a book by what it does. You see what I'm saying? You don't judge a book by its cover. There's been a time that you've done that. Don't judge a book by its cover. Yeah, there's been a time that you have done that. Not don't judge a book by its cover. I have done that, and if I don't currently steal right now, I have every right to tell you not to steal. You see how that works? I've done this. You don't need to do that. Fucking knock it off. See how that works? I'm not being judgmental. But if I say don't steal, now I'm being judgmental. See the two approaches? Don't do it. Don't do it because that's stupid. Or don't steal. One's judgmental, but look at how human ego is perceiving that. The human ego is taking the one to say, yeah, you're probably right, and taking the other to say, don't tell me what to fucking do. Okay, well, why is don't tell me what to do such an instant reaction? Don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Don't tell me what to do. God, do you know? I did. Oops. You see what I'm saying? Like, this has gone on forever. And I really, like, to me, the story is the story. It doesn't matter how you look at it. It doesn't matter what images you want to give it. You could give it all images of energy. You could give it images of actual angels and demons. You can give it images of fucking golden calves. You can give it images of stories throughout humanity. I don't care what way you give it an image. Your images are your idols. The truth is the truth. Even the church has idols at the altar.
Yeah. I don't know. The church is the more you get into it, there's a lot of like really symbolic things and idols and like ceremonial things that happen in the church. Like it's very culty, honestly. I was at a ceremony one time and I was freaked out. I was like, these people are kind of like cannibals. They're like, eat the body, drink the blood. What the fuck? Is it werewolves? Like what?
Yeah, okay, but you're an idiot if you think that. Seriously. If
I
you
didn't think it was
literally think
werewolves,
that,
obviously.
no, but when you're like, these people are cannibals, eat the body, drink the blood, no. That's because, see, look at that. One simple thing. The most famous passage of all. Like one of the most famous passages. Christ takes the bread, breaks it. This is the representative of my body, the building of the church. He takes the blood. This will represent my blood, which will be spilled. He's predicting his death. And he says,
when did that happen?
So this is why they do communion. Every time you remember the sacrifice I made for you so that you could live, take this. Have some bread, have some grape juice, have some bread, have some wine. It doesn't matter what you're physically taking. The symbology of what it represents to where you get your knowledge from. I created you and then I died so your creation can continue to live after you die. And then this other thing's trying to tell you to live this other way, but you're not going to continue living after that. It thinks you can, but that's not how it works. I'm God. I know it's an angel. It doesn't. Okay. But people get stuck on this one right here because the lies got so mucked up. They get stuck on, was God real? Is it not real? Is the devil real? Is it not real? That debating that alone, the devil's already won. Already. He's like, you can debate it your whole fucking life. Have fun. But when you really want to fucking unpack it, you came from somewhere and your thoughts still continually come from somewhere. And it isn't you. You're not that special.
Yeah. No, it's the portals. And this is why I love being open-minded and why I really have a hard time talking with closed-minded people, because there's these like doorways, portals, doorways, whatever, open channels in my mind that I think is like essential for really being human. When you're really closed-minded, yeah, you're human too, and you're gonna do all the human things, right? But it makes it way harder to feel like you're connected with other people.
But that
When those
open door
doorways
you're
are open,
describing,
it's a world of connection. When it's closed, it's just like, I don't know. I see it
the open, the open doorway
But I'm
you're
sure there's
describing is
like
honesty, is life. That's the life is in you, and you were allowing life at that point to lead you. You're questioning, you're discerning, you're being conscious. But the minute you close one of those doors, now life can't flow through you the right way. Now you're drawing an opinion from something because you closed the door. Now the flow hits it, and it doesn't have another door to channel and keep the flow going and drive another thought in and out. You have now grabbed a thought and captured that one thought, rather than allow all the thoughts to be the story. You see what I mean? So in the same way, life is many components of the story. It's just like, if we are the mind of God, if all, back to the beginning, if all is the all, and we are the mind of God, and God, we are a thought in God, that means we are just a brain cell. We are just one single cell in the brain. We are one single thought. We are one single interaction. That's not all.
This is like the Matrix. Like our brains are like some kind of energy source for God. And while we live, we're like, he's like sucking it out.
Yeah, because if you were going to be God, wouldn't you have to like know everything? And to know everything, what would be the easiest way to do so? To multiply yourself into many sources that live and learn.
One of them will figure it out.
So a piece of you is God. But you are not God. See, he's saying, look, I gave you life. You're
like,
using
I'm
this.
not
You get
a
to enjoy
God,
this.
right? But part of. I contribute to. There's a part of that within.
You don't see, look, right there. You contribute to God. So let me just change your terminology. You serve God.
It's like I'm in God. I don't know.
Yeah, and God is in you. You take my hand and you stick your hand in my hand and I will lead you. But then if you want to take this other side, I will let you choose that and you will be removed from my hand and then you will be disconnected from me. So you're either disconnected like the pyramid in the eye in the middle that separates God from man, or you are connected.
Yeah. I mean, some people go and live in a cave, and I don't get it. Got to be connected. So that's, yeah. Communities through connection and belief. But that aren't cults.
No, it's belief of truth. It's a belief of true truth. For me to analyze something and not just settle for what the media tells me that is. Just because the media said that's a math equation, I want to see how you came to terms. And people look, well, that looks pretty complicated. That must be right. No, I want to know where you started. Like I said, remember that time we had that discussion about pi? I'm like, pi's a universal number. Well, we come to discover that in science. I'm like, yeah, I want to know how they knew to start on 3. Well, because they had an equation. And how did they know to draw the first part of the equation? Well, because they tested this. Well, how did they know to test that? And why did they know that? You see what I'm saying? My whole point is like language. It's just like I can create a word and it be usha. Usha now means fuck you. I love that analogy because fuck people, man. Usha, fuck you now.
Right,
now that's a new word.
Words for that.
Okay, so check this out. There's a lot of words for it. Yes. Okay. But when somebody said, I say usha, now somebody says that's not a word. You go, no, that's a word. That's his way of saying fuck you. And the other person will go, I get it. Ha ha ha. Interesting. Person can either accept it or they'll say, yeah, but that's not a word. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Do you see how knowledge is passed on?
Yeah. Sort of. Each person has a kind of sphere, I guess, or a kind of area of affectance.
But does not,
like
but
me
look,
listening to
that's
you right now,
semantic,
like
though.
I'm definitely in your sphere of affectance or whatever,
Yeah.
your influence. So you're influencing me, right? So this is how your thoughts are kind of affecting my thoughts, right?
So
But
semantics, though. That's
there needs to be
semantics,
some connect. Okay, well,
right?
I gotta get
So
past
that
semantics.
doesn't, that's semantics, right? Both people think they have it right. Initially, here's the actual full truth. The full truth is what I said means fuck you, and fuck you means fuck you, and go fuck yourself means fuck you, and it doesn't matter. There's the truth. Is it a salvation issue? Now I'm using this in very small scaling so that the tiniest of human brains could fucking try to understand, which would be like all of you. Yes, that was cocky.
That's like me.
I have every right to say that because people continue to be stupid. And then when they find out I'm a complete fucking genius, then they're like, oh, we're so dumb. And I'm like, yeah, I already fucking know.
I hate to say I told you so.
See, and this is
I
why
think that's a good spot.
I think that's a good spot to start any friendship. You shouldn't stroke somebody's ego to start a friendship. When you walk up to somebody and you should just call them stupid. You'd be like, you're a fucking idiot. And how they respond to that, that is what determines who I'm friends with.
Yeah, I get it,
straight
though.
up, though. Straight up, that is truth. That is what I do. I like throw out crazy shit. I'm like, go fuck yourself. If I kill you right now, is that important? I take it to the darkest, hardest place right away because I'm like, that's life. Life is hard. Life is not easy. Life is overcoming the devil. And I want to know what you're made of. And when I ask you something, if you're going to get all offended or all like, but I don't believe in that. I don't have time to talk to you. I don't. You're not going to listen to me. Let's save each other the hassle. Fuck off. Come to me when you're ready to learn the actual truth. And 10 years later, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that was right. And then they come flying by and you're like, you're a fucktard. Because now they're at the beginning of that. And you're like, that was like 10 fucking years ago. You're like, Jesus, fuck. And now they think that's true. And they're like, oh. And you're like, I've already grown past that.